The stars had never seemed so crowded to the people of Earth. For centuries, humans wondered if they were alone in the universe. Then, in the span of a single day, they got their answer. High Counselor Vexarath stood in the command center of the diplomatic flagship, watching the blue planet rotate slowly on the viewing screen. The crystalline being's body reflected the light from 1,000 control panels, creating dancing patterns across the walls. Vexarath had done this exact thing 473 times before. First contact was a ritual, perfected over 50,000 years. "Send the greeting package," Vexarath commanded. The communications officer, a floating jellyfish-like creature from the Qualesh systems, triggered the transmission. In an instant, 10,000 different languages flooded Earth's communication networks. The message was simple and had never changed. "Greetings. You are not alone. We come in peace. We wish to welcome you to the galactic community." The first contact fleet hung in space just beyond Earth's moon. 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of engineering and art. The vessels were designed to inspire wonder, not fear. They gleamed like jewels against the darkness, their hulls decorated with the symbols of 847 different species. On Earth, every screen, every radio, every device that could receive a signal suddenly carried the same message. Governments scrambled. Military forces went on high alert. Scientists wept with joy. Religious leaders tried to understand what this meant. And ordinary people stopped whatever they were doing and looked up at the sky. Within hours, Earth's leaders managed to send a response. It was clumsy and used only one language, but the Council's translation computers handled it easily. "We receive your message. We wish to speak with you. Please give us time to prepare." Vexarath felt the familiar satisfaction of another successful first contact. "Tell them we will wait. Send them the basic technology package. Show them we mean well." The technology package was standard procedure. It contained designs for clean energy, cures for common diseases, and basic faster-than-light communication devices. Not the really advanced stuff, of course. That came after joining the Council. But enough to prove the Council's good intentions. 3 weeks later, a small human spacecraft approached the Council fleet. It was primitive, using chemical rockets and taking days to make a journey that Council ships could do in minutes. But it arrived, and that was what mattered. Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped through the airlock onto the diplomatic flagship. She was a middle-aged woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. She wore a simple black suit because no one on Earth knew what one wore to meet aliens. Behind her came a team of 12 other humans, all trying not to stare at the wonders around them. Vexarath met them in the grand reception hall. The crystalline being had prepared carefully for this moment. "Welcome, Ambassador Chen. Welcome to the first day of your species' true future." Sarah Chen bowed slightly. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times. "Thank you, High Counselor. On behalf of Earth, we are honored to meet you." The formalities took hours. There were tours of the ships, demonstrations of technology, and endless explanations. Chen and her team learned about the Galactic Council, an organization so vast that it boggled the mind. 847 species, thousands of worlds, millions of space stations, all working together under one set of laws. "We have been watching your species for some time," Vexarath explained as they walked through a garden that grew plants from 100 different worlds. "You are ready to join us. Your technology has reached the threshold. Your civilization is stable. You have stopped your major wars. This is the natural progression." "What happens if a species isn't ready?" Chen asked. "We wait," Vexarath said simply. "We have patience. But you are ready. Your kind has shown the qualities we look for: curiosity, cooperation, the ability to overcome your differences." Over the next 2 weeks, Chen and her team were taken to Unity Prime, the capital of the Galactic Council. The station was larger than Jupiter, a construct so massive that it had its own gravity. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked there. Chen walked through markets where creatures traded goods from across the galaxy. She saw libraries that contained the knowledge of civilizations millions of years old. She attended a session of the Council itself, sitting in a gallery and watching as representatives from different worlds debated trade routes and resource allocation. It was overwhelming. It was magnificent. It was everything humanity had dreamed of and more. Finally, the day of the formal offer arrived. Chen stood in the grand chamber, a room so large that clouds formed near its ceiling. Around her, arranged in a spiral that represented the galaxy itself, sat the representatives of all 847 species. Vexrath's voice boomed through the chamber. Ambassador Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we extend to humanity the offer of membership. Join us, take your place among the stars. We offer you access to our technology. We offer you trade with 1,000 worlds. We offer you protection and partnership. We offer you a future beyond your wildest dreams. The chamber fell silent. Billions across the galaxy watched the broadcast. This was always the best part, Vexrath thought. The moment when a new species said yes and took their first real step into the cosmos. Chen looked small in the massive chamber. But her voice was clear and steady. High Counselor, members of the Council, I must speak with my government before I can respond. We request 72 hours to consider your generous offer. A murmur ran through the chamber. This was unusual but not unprecedented. Some species needed time to process such a momentous decision. Of course, Vexrath said graciously. Take the time you need. We have waited this long. We can wait a little longer. Chen and her team returned to their ship. The human vessel seemed even more primitive now. After they had seen what was possible, they made the long journey back to Earth, carrying the weight of a decision that would shape humanity's future. On Unity Prime, the Council waited. Betting pools formed among the younger species about how long it would take humans to say yes. The older species smiled indulgently. They always said yes. Every species in all of recorded history had joined the Council. Some took hours, some took years, but they all joined eventually. It was the natural order of things. The only logical choice, the Council represented safety, prosperity, and progress. What species would turn that down? Vexrath returned to the crystalline being's quarters and reviewed the humanity file one more time. Standard Template 7B, average lifespan, average intelligence, average everything. They would make a fine addition to the Council. Not remarkable, perhaps, but solid. Dependable. The 72 hours passed. Chen's ship returned to Unity Prime. The Grand Chamber filled once more. Vexrath took the central podium, ready to welcome the newest members of the galactic family. Ambassador Chen walked to the speaking platform. She looked calm, but Vexrath noticed her hands were clenched at her sides. Humans must show stress differently than most species, the High Counselor thought. High Counselor, members of the Council, Chen began. My government has considered your offer carefully. We have discussed it at length. We have examined every aspect of what membership would mean. Vexrath nodded encouragingly. This was going exactly as expected. And after careful consideration, Chen continued. Humanity must respectfully decline your offer. We will not be joining the Galactic Council. We thank you for your generosity, but we choose to remain independent. We will handle our own affairs and forge our own path among the stars. The silence that followed was absolute. In 50,000 years of Council history, no species had ever said no. For exactly 17 seconds, nobody in the Grand Chamber moved. Ambassador Chen stood at the podium, waiting. High Counselor Vexrath's crystalline body had stopped its usual subtle glow, frozen in what might have been shock. Then everyone started talking at once. Translation error, shouted a representative from the Qualish systems. There must be a translation error. Impossible, hissed a snake-like being from the Sethys Empire. No species refuses the Council. Vexrath raised a central limb and the chamber fell quiet again. The High Counselor's voice was carefully controlled. Ambassador Chen, I believe there may have been a misunderstanding. Perhaps you need more time to consult with your government? Chen shook her head. There is no misunderstanding, High Counselor. I have communicated clearly with my government throughout this process. Our answer is no. We appreciate everything you have shown us. We are grateful for the technology you have shared. But humanity will not join the Galactic Council. But why? The question came from Representative Kalmara, a being that looked like living light contained in a vaguely humanoid shape. We offer you everything: protection, technology, trade, knowledge. Why would you refuse? Chen took a deep breath. She had practiced this part too. Because we choose to walk our own path. We want to make our own mistakes and find our own solutions. We want to keep our independence. A tall, muscular creature with 4 arms stood up. Commander Thexal of the Zenthari warrior caste pointed at Chen. This is an insult. We offer partnership and they spit on it. I say this is a sign of aggression. It is not aggression, Chen said firmly. We do not wish to fight anyone. We simply wish to be left alone to develop at our own pace. Surely you can understand that. Vexrath tried to process this. In all of the crystalline being's long life, nothing like this had happened. Ambassador Chen, please understand. Every species that has achieved space travel has joined the Council. It is the natural progression. It is how civilization works on a galactic scale. Perhaps, Chen replied. But it is not how humanity wishes to work. We thank you again for your offer. Now, with your permission, we will return to our space and you will return to yours. She bowed once more and turned to leave. Her team followed her, their faces carefully neutral. The entire council watched them go in stunned silence. As soon as the humans left, the grand chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded military action. Others suggested sending more diplomats. The peaceful species urged patience. The warrior species saw a threat. Vexrath called for order, but it took nearly an hour to restore calm. Finally, the High Counselor addressed the council. We will not act hastily. We will send another delegation with an improved offer. Perhaps they need to see more of what we can provide. Over the next 3 months, the council sent 7 different delegations to Earth. Each one offered better terms. Full membership instead of junior status, better trade agreements, access to their most advanced medical technology, prime real estate on Unity Prime for a human embassy. Each delegation returned with the same answer. No, thank you. The Council's intelligence services went into overdrive. They analyzed every human broadcast, every piece of communication they could intercept. They were looking for the reason. There had to be a reason. Was humanity planning to attack? No signs of military buildup. Were they in contact with a rival power? No other major civilizations existed in that region of space. Were they simply too primitive to understand? The humans seemed perfectly intelligent. The mystery drove the council to distraction. Emergency sessions were called. Philosophers debated what this meant. Historians searched their records for anything similar. They found nothing useful. In 50,000 years, this had never happened. Meanwhile, the council did something it had never done before. They established a quarantine zone around human space, a ring of monitoring stations, keeping watch on Earth and its colonies. Not to attack, they told themselves. Just to observe. Just to understand. But inside the quarantine zone, something was happening. Human ships stopped visiting council space. The handful of human traders and explorers who had ventured out all returned home. Then the humans closed their borders completely. No one in, no one out. The council's monitoring stations reported strange activity. Massive construction projects across the human solar system. The asteroid belt was being stripped of resources at an incredible rate. Energy signatures were spiking across all human worlds. They are building something, reported Intelligence Officer Mira Esch. A being with multiple eyes and tentacles covered in sensory organs. Something big. Weapons? Asked Commander Thexal hopefully. The warrior had been arguing for military intervention for weeks now. Unknown, Mira Esch replied. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever they are building, it is not based on council technology. Vexrath studied the reports. Human industrial output had increased by 300% in just 6 months. Impossible according to standard development curves. A species should not be able to scale up that quickly without council help. What are they afraid of? Vexrath wondered aloud. We have made no threats. We have offered only friendship. Perhaps they fear conquest, suggested Representative Ornthea, a plant-based being with leaves that changed color with mood. Perhaps in their history, stronger powers always dominated weaker ones. Then we must show them we are different, Vexrath decided. We will send one more delegation. But this time, we will make it clear that refusal is not acceptable. They need to understand that isolation is not a viable option in the modern galaxy. Commander Thexal grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. And if they refuse again? Vexrath's crystalline body flickered with an unreadable emotion. Then we will need to consider them a potential threat. For their own good and ours, humanity cannot remain outside the council. It has never happened. It cannot be allowed to happen. A fleet was assembled. 500 ships. Not an invasion force, Vexrath insisted. A show of strength, yes, but also protection. Ambassador Talneem, one of the council's most skilled diplomats, was chosen to lead the mission. Talneem was a flowing, water-like being who could take any shape. The diplomat had successfully negotiated with the most stubborn species in Council history. "I will make them understand," Talneem promised. "I will find what they truly want and give it to them. No one can refuse me." The fleet departed from Unity Prime with great ceremony. Billions watched the broadcast. This would be the moment when the human problem was finally solved. Talneem would succeed where others had failed. The journey to human space took 3 weeks. As the fleet approached Earth's outer system, they sent the standard greeting. "We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders. Please receive our ambassador." The response came in less than 10 seconds. That was fast. Perhaps the humans were eager to talk after all. Then the translation came through. Just 5 words that sent a chill through the entire fleet. "Turn back. This is your only warning." Commander Thexal, commanding the military escort, laughed. "They threaten us? 500 of the most advanced ships in the galaxy?" Human arrogance knows no bounds, but Talneem felt uneasy. Something was wrong. "Request sensor data on human positions." "What are we facing?" The sensor officer, a being with multifaceted eyes like an insect, manipulated its controls. Then it went very still. "Ambassador, you need to see this." The main viewing screen changed. It showed the space around Earth and its neighboring planets. And in that space, spread across the entire system, were thousands of structures, massive rings, each one humming with power. "The constructions that humanity had been building for the past 6 months, what are they?" Talneem asked. "Unknown," the sensor officer whispered. "But they are all activating. All of them. At once." Commander Thexal stood up. "Battle stations. Shields to maximum. This is a trap." "Wait," Talneem ordered. "We do not know what..." The rings opened. All of them. Thousands of swirling portals of energy, tearing holes in space itself. And through those holes came ships, not hundreds of ships, not thousands, millions. They poured through the gates like water through a broken dam. Ships of every size and design. Some looked human. Some looked alien. Some looked like nothing the Council had ever seen. They filled the space around the Council fleet, surrounding them on all sides. The sensor board went crazy. The officers' multiple eyes darted in every direction. Impossible readings. These ships are using technology that should not exist. Some of them are violating known physics. Some are partly in dimensions we cannot fully perceive. Commander Thexal's confidence vanished. "How many?" "Still counting. At least 7 million and more are still coming through. Commander, we are completely surrounded." Then Ambassador Chen's face appeared on every screen in the Council fleet. She looked different now. More confident. Almost sad. "I tried to warn you," she said. "We tried to do this politely, but you would not listen. So now you need to understand the truth. Humanity does not need the Galactic Council. We have our own allies. We always have." Ambassador Talneem stared at the viewing screens in disbelief. The water-like beings' form rippled with confusion and fear. Millions of ships surrounded the Council fleet. Each sensor reading was more impossible than the last. "Where did they all come from?" Talneem whispered. "How did we not detect this? How could humanity build such a fleet in secret?" Commander Thexal was already barking orders. "Analysis. I need to know what we are facing. Weapons signatures. Power levels. Weak points, move!" The tactical officer, a being with 6 arms and computational implants directly connected to its brain, worked frantically. "Commander, the ships are not all human design. I am detecting at least 50 different technology bases. Some are more advanced than Council standard. Some are less, but they are all working together." "Who are their allies?" Talneem demanded. "What species could have hidden from us?" Ambassador Chen's face remained on the screen. She looked tired but determined. "You are asking the wrong questions. These ships are not from other species. They are all human, just not from your reality." Silence fell across the Council flagship's bridge. Everyone stared at Chen's image. "What do you mean?" Talneem asked slowly. Chen gestured and the view changed. It showed Earth, but not just one Earth. The image split into dozens of versions. Each one was slightly different. 53 years ago, humanity discovered something. We discovered that we are not alone in our reality. We discovered that reality itself has layers, parallel universes, alternate timelines, other dimensions where other versions of humanity exist. She paused to let that sink in. In some realities, humanity developed faster. In some slower. In some we went to space early. In others we nearly destroyed ourselves. But in every reality where humans survived, We made the same discovery. We found each other. The tactical display updated. It now showed Earth surrounded by thousands of glowing points. Each point was a portal. Each portal led to another Earth in another reality. The gates you see are not weapons, Chen continued. They are bridges, connections between parallel realities. Every reality that has discovered the technology can help defend any other reality that needs it. When your fleet approached with force, we sent out a call, and they answered. Commander Thexel was breathing hard, trying to process this. You are saying all these ships are from alternate universes? Yes. And they all came to defend this version of Earth? Yes, why? Chen smiled sadly. Because that is what humanity does. We look after our own, across any distance, across any barrier, even across realities themselves. You thought we were alone. You thought we needed you. But we have never been alone. Another figure appeared beside Chen on the screen. This one looked human, but something was off. The person's eyes glowed with a soft blue light. When they spoke, their voice echoed strangely. I am Administrator Chen 7 from Reality Stream 447. In our timeline, humanity achieved digital transcendence 400 years ago. We exist as pure information now, but we are still human. And when this reality's Earth called, we answered. Another figure appeared. This one looked more traditionally human, but wore a uniform marked with symbols no one in the council recognized. Captain Chen from Timeline Sigma 9. We have had faster-than-light travel for 800 years. We have colonized 3,000 systems, and yes, we still help our parallel selves. More figures appeared. Each one introduced themselves. Each one represented a different version of humanity from a different reality. Some were biological, some were digital, some were hybrid. One was a collective consciousness. Another claimed to exist partially outside normal space-time. But they all called themselves human. And they all stood together. Talneem felt reality shifting beneath the diplomat's understanding. This is impossible. The Council has studied parallel realities. The mathematics do not work. The energy requirements are beyond any civilization. You cannot have this technology. Your Council does not have this technology, corrected the original Ambassador Chen. But humanity does. We discovered it independently. In every reality where we survived long enough to look, we found it. We found each other. And we built the network you see before you. She gestured to the millions of ships. This is just a fraction of what we can call upon. There are billions of human civilizations across infinite timelines. Most of us stay in our own realities. We do not interfere with each other's development. But when one of us is threatened, we answer. Always. Commander Thexel made a decision. Target their command ship. Prepare to fire. We will show them Council strength. No, Talneem ordered sharply. Weapons hold. Commander, stand down, but that is an order. Talneem's liquid form solidified into something dense and heavy. Look at the numbers. Look at the readings. If we fire, we die, all of us, and we will have started a war with an enemy we did not know existed. The tactical officer spoke up, voice shaking. Ambassador Talneem is correct. I am now detecting weapon systems on approximately 40% of the enemy ships. Many of those weapons are more powerful than anything in our arsenal. If they all fire at once. The officer trailed off, not wanting to finish the thought. Talneem turned back to the screen. Ambassador Chen, we did not know. We did not understand. We thought you were alone. We thought you needed us. We know, Chen said gently, and we do not blame you for that. The Galactic Council has done great things. You have brought peace to your corner of the galaxy. You have helped countless species. That is admirable, but it is not the only way. Then why refuse us? Talneem asked. If you have all this power, why not join us? Together we could accomplish so much more, Chen sighed. Because we have seen what happens in realities where humans join councils like yours. We have compared notes across timelines, and we have learned a pattern. When humanity joins an existing galactic civilization, we lose something important. We become junior partners in someone else's system. We adopt someone else's solutions to problems. We stop being fully human. She looked directly at the camera. In timelines where humans stay independent, we struggle more. We make mistakes. We fail often. But we also grow in ways we could not if someone else was always there to catch us. We develop unique solutions. We maintain what makes us human. And eventually, we find our parallel selves and build something new. Another version of Chen appeared on screen. This one wore what looked like ceremonial robes. I am Elder Chen from the Contemplation Timeline. We have studied this question for 300 years. Independence is not about pride or fear. It is about growth. A tree that is sheltered never develops strong roots. A bird that is carried never learns to fly. The robed Chen continued. We appreciate what the Galactic Council offers, but we must decline. We have our own path, our own alliance, our own future. Tal Neem felt defeated but also curious. What will you do now? Will you hide forever? Ambassador Chen shook her head. No. We will establish formal diplomatic relations between the Human Multiversal Network and the Galactic Council. Not as members, as peers. Two separate civilizations that can cooperate on mutual interests while respecting each other's sovereignty. The Council will not like that, Tal Neem warned. The Council will have to accept it, Chen replied firmly, because the alternative is war. And nobody wants that. Your people do not want to fight millions of unknown opponents, and we do not want to fight at all. So we will find a peaceful solution. Together, Commander Thexal growled. High Counselor Vexrath will never accept this. Humanity outside the Council is unthinkable. Then Vexrath will need to think new thoughts, said Captain Chen from Timeline Sigma 9. The universe is bigger than your Council imagined. That is not an insult. It is simply a fact. You built something great in your reality. We built something great across many realities. Now we meet as equals. Tal Neem made a decision. Commander, signal the fleet. We are returning to Unity Prime, no aggressive actions. We go in peace. They will call it surrender, Thexal protested. They will call it wisdom, Tal Neem corrected. We came to bring humanity into the Council by force if necessary. Instead, we discovered that humanity is far more powerful than we imagined. Retreating is not cowardice. It is sanity. The Council fleet began to turn, slowly, carefully. They moved away from Earth and its ring of portals. The millions of human ships from across realities watched them go but did not interfere. As they accelerated toward the jump point that would take them home, Tal Neem sent one last message to Ambassador Chen. What will you tell your parallel selves? The ones in other timelines? Chen smiled. We will tell them that we met the Galactic Council. We will tell them that you came in strength but left in peace. And we will tell them that perhaps in the future, our two civilizations can learn from each other, not as master and student, but as partners. Tal Neem signed off, the water-like being looked at the sensor display one last time, seeing those millions of ships slowly returning through their portals to their home realities. Each one a version of humanity that had made different choices but reached the same conclusion. They were stronger together. But on their own terms, what have we discovered? Commander Thexal asked quietly. That the universe is stranger than we thought, Tal Neem replied, and that humanity is far more than they appeared. We must warn the Council. Everything has changed. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speeds, racing back to Unity Prime with news that would shake. The Grand Chamber of Unity Prime had never been so full. Every representative from all 847 species crowded into the massive space. The galleries were packed with observers. Billions more watched from across the galaxy. This was the emergency session to end all emergency sessions. High Counselor Vexrath stood at the central podium, crystalline body dim with exhaustion. The Counselor had not rested since Ambassador Tal Neem's fleet returned 3 days ago. 3 days of constant meetings, arguments, and crisis management. 3 days of watching 50,000 years of certainty crumble. Order. Vexrath's voice boomed through the chamber. I call this emergency session to order. We all know why we are here. We all know what has been discovered. Now we must decide how to respond. Ambassador Tal Neem stood to address the Council. The water-like being's form was unusually solid, a sign of stress. I have reviewed my report multiple times. I have verified every sensor reading. I have confirmed every detail. The facts are these. Humanity has access to parallel realities. They have formed an alliance across these realities. They command resources that dwarf our own, and they refuse to join the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted immediately. Voices of every pitch and tone shouted over each other. Impossible. We must verify this independently. It is a trick. We should attack before they grow stronger. We should open trade negotiations. This changes everything. Vexrath called for order again. It took several minutes to restore calm. Representative Korath of the Sciences Guild. You have studied Tal Neem's report. What is your analysis? A floating sphere covered in sensory equipment drifted to the speaking position. Korath's synthesized voice was emotionless, but the words were not. The science is sound. Parallel reality theory has existed for millennia, but we dismissed it as impossible to access. Humanity has proven us wrong. They found a way, and if their claims are accurate, they have had this technology for over 50 years. 50 years, repeated Representative Jacquil, a mantis-like being from the Kresh Dominion. They had this power for 50 years and never told us. They let us think they were weak, primitive. That is deception. That is self-defense, countered Representative Ornthea, the plant-based delegate whose leaves had turned a worried shade of brown. Think about it from their perspective. They discover us, a massive civilization that has existed for 50,000 years. We immediately tell them they must join us or be isolated. How would you respond? With honesty. Jacquil clicked his mandibles angrily. We offered them everything. They should have trusted us. Why? Ornthea's leaves shifted to red, a sign of challenge. What have we done to earn their trust? We showed them our strength and expected submission. We called it partnership, but it was really assimilation. They saw through us. Commander Thexal stood, forearms crossed. The warrior had been unusually quiet since returning. I do not care about philosophy. I care about security. Humanity now represents the greatest military threat the Council has ever faced. We must address this. Agreed, said High Counselor Vexrath. But how? We cannot fight them. The numbers alone make it impossible, and that assumes they do not have even more resources than they showed us. They probably do, said Korath. Based on their statements, there are billions of human realities. We encountered perhaps a few thousand. If even a fraction of those billions have advanced technology, humanity's total military capacity exceeds the combined might of the entire Council. The chamber went silent. That number was too large to really comprehend. The Council controlled thousands of systems and commanded fleets that could shatter planets. And humanity could match them easily, perhaps overwhelm them. Then we have already lost, someone said from the back. No, Vexrath said firmly. We have not lost because there is no war. Humanity does not want to conquer us. They want to be left alone, and they offer diplomatic relations. We should take that offer. Impossible, shouted Representative Mekthor, a being that looked like living metal. The Galactic Council does not negotiate with outside powers. Everyone joins or everyone stays primitive. Those are the only options. That is how we have maintained order for 50,000 years. And perhaps, said Ornthea quietly, that is why we never encountered anyone like humanity before. Perhaps our rigid system has kept out anyone who might challenge it. Perhaps we have been lucky, not wise. Vexrath knew this was the critical moment. The Council could go two ways. They could accept the new reality or they could try to maintain the old order. One path led to the future. The other led to stagnation or war. I propose we send a new delegation to humanity, Vexrath announced. Not to demand anything. Not to threaten. But to genuinely negotiate. They called themselves the Human Multiversal Network. We are the Galactic Council. Two powers. Two approaches to civilization. Perhaps we can learn from each other. Learn from primitives? Mekthor scoffed. They discovered space travel a few hundred years ago. What can they teach us? They can teach us, said Ambassador Talneem, speaking up again, that there is more than one way to organize a civilization. They can teach us that strength comes in forms we never considered. They can teach us humility. Commander Thexal made a rumbling sound. I never thought I would see the day when the Council bowed to newcomers. We are not bowing, Vexrath said. We are adapting. That is what intelligent species do when circumstances change. The universe just got bigger and stranger. We can either accept that or be left behind. The debate raged for hours. Some species wanted to cut all contact with humanity. Others wanted to study them from a distance. A few aggressive species still muttered about military solutions. But slowly, reluctantly, a consensus formed. The Council would accept humanity's offer of diplomatic relations. Not as members. As partners, it hurt. It went against everything the Council stood for. But the alternative was worse. A vote was called. It passed by a narrow margin. The Council would officially recognize the Human Multiversal Network as a separate but equal civilization. Trade could be negotiated. Cultural exchanges could be arranged. But humanity would remain independent. As the representatives filed out, Vexrath remained at the podium. The crystalline being felt very old suddenly. 50,000 years of history, of tradition, of certainty. All of it challenged by one small species that refused to follow the rules. Ornthea approached, leaves now a gentle blue. You did well, High Counselor. This was the right choice, was it? Vexrath wondered. We have never had equals before. Only members and primitives. How do we handle a civilization that fits neither category? We learn, Ornthea said, just as they are learning about us. That is what both our civilizations do best, is it not? We learn and adapt. Later, in a private chamber, Vexrath met with a small group of the Council's eldest members. These were beings from species millions of years old. They rarely spoke in public sessions, but their wisdom guided the Council. The ancient one of the Praxis Collective spoke first. The being was so old it barely had physical form anymore, existing mostly as organized energy. We warned you this day might come. We told you that an empire based on a single model would eventually meet something it could not absorb. You did not tell us it would be humans, Vexrath said. We did not know it would be them specifically, but someone eventually. The universe is too large and too strange for one approach to fit all. What do we do now? Vexrath asked. The Ancient One flickered. We change, we grow. We accept that our way is not the only way. This is hard. Your generation built its identity on the Council's supremacy. That identity must now evolve. Another elder, from a species Vexrath could not even name, added its thoughts. Humanity has done something remarkable. They found their parallel selves and chose cooperation over conflict. They built a network based on mutual aid rather than hierarchy. Perhaps we can learn from this. You want us to become like them? Vexrath asked. No, we want you to be open to new ideas. The Council has been successful because we adapted the best parts of each member species. Now we have encountered a civilization that approaches problems differently. Study them. Understand them. And take what works. Vexrath considered this. And if they prove to be a threat, then we deal with it, the Ancient One said. But I do not think they will be. They have had the power to attack us for 50 years and never did. They only showed their strength when we pushed them. That is not aggression. That is caution. The meeting ended. Vexrath returned to the public chambers to begin the work of implementing the Council's decision. Messages would need to be sent. Protocols would need to be written. This was completely new territory. And across the galaxy, the younger species were already reacting. The news had spread. Humanity had faced down the Council and won, not through war. Through strength combined with restraint, they proved there was another way. Some species were frightened, some were inspired, and a few very quietly began to wonder, if humanity could stay independent, could they? If humans could access parallel realities, what other impossibilities might be possible? The Galactic Council had maintained order for 50,000 years by being the only game in town. Now there was a second option, and nothing would ever be quite the same. 3 months had passed since the confrontation at Earth. Unity Prime looked the same as always, a massive structure gleaming against the stars. But inside, everything was different. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the diplomatic quarters with a confidence she had not felt during her first visit. Behind her came a delegation unlike any the Council had seen. 12 representatives, each from a different parallel reality, each one human, but each one unique. There was Marcus Chen from Reality Alpha 12, where humanity had discovered clean fusion energy 300 years earlier. His timeline was wealthy and peaceful. Next came Dr. Sarah Chen Wu from the Science Timeline, where 90% of humanity had chosen to focus on research and discovery. She wore a lab coat covered in equations that seemed to shift and change. Then came the soldier, Colonel Chen from the Military Timeline. In her reality, humanity had faced an invasion from another dimension and become warriors. She carried scars both physical and mental. Beside her walked the artist, simply called Chen of the Thousand Colors, from a timeline where humanity had achieved peace and turned to pure creative expression. There were more. The diplomat, the explorer, the philosopher, the engineer, the healer, the teacher, the dreamer, the builder, all of them Chen, all of them human, all of them representing a different path humanity had taken across the infinite realities. High Counselor Vexrath met them at the entrance to the Grand Chamber. The crystalline being had prepared carefully for this moment, Ambassador Chen, delegates, welcome to Unity Prime, welcome to the beginning of something new. Sarah Chen bowed slightly. Thank you, High Counselor. We appreciate your invitation and your willingness to recognize us as equals. It was not an easy decision, Vexrath admitted, but it was the right one. Please come. The council is assembled. They entered the grand chamber. This time there was no shocked silence. The representatives had been briefed. They knew what they were seeing. But still, the sight of 12 humans from parallel realities caused murmurs throughout the massive space. Vexrath took the central podium. Members of the Galactic Council, today we make history. For the first time in 50,000 years, we formally recognize a civilization as separate but equal to our own. Today we establish diplomatic relations with the human multiversal network. Sarah Chen stepped forward. High Counselor, members of the Council, we come in peace and partnership. We do not seek to replace your system or challenge your authority over your member species. We simply ask to be recognized as a different but valid approach to civilization. Representative Ornthea, whose leaves were a hopeful green today, spoke up. Ambassador Chen, help us understand. How does your network function? How do billions of separate human civilizations cooperate without a central authority? Dr. Chen Wu from the Science Timeline answered. It is based on voluntary cooperation. Each reality governs itself, but we share information freely. When one reality makes a breakthrough, all realities benefit. When one reality faces a crisis, others can help. There is no hierarchy. No one reality commands the others. But who resolves disputes? Asked Representative Jacques Hill. Who enforces rules? We do, said Marcus Chen from Alpha 12. All of us. If a reality acts harmfully toward others, the network can choose to isolate them. But this is rare. Most disputes are settled through discussion and compromise. Commander Thexal leaned forward. And if discussion fails? If one reality attacks another? Colonel Chen answered, her voice hard with experience. Then the rest of us respond. Just as we did when your fleet approached Earth with force. An attack on one reality is an attack on all. That is our guarantee of security. But it is not imposed, Sarah Chen added quickly. Each reality chooses to participate. Some human timelines have chosen isolation. We respect that. They do not participate in the network, but we do not force them. Freedom is fundamental to humanity. Vexrath felt something shift in understanding. So your strength comes not from central control but from shared purpose. Yes, Sarah Chen smiled. We are strong because we choose to be together. Not because someone forces us. The questions continued for hours. The council wanted to understand everything. How did the portal technology work? How did humans from different realities communicate? What happened if two realities had conflicting interests? The human delegates answered patiently. Sometimes their answers conflicted with each other, showing that even within the network humans disagreed. But they disagreed respectfully. They debated without hostility. And ultimately, they found common ground. As the session continued, something strange began to happen. Some of the younger council species started asking different questions, not about humanity, about themselves. Could our species have parallel versions? Asked a representative from a mammalian race. Korath, the scientific sphere, considered this. Theoretically, yes. If humans exist across parallel realities, other species should as well. We simply never developed the technology to look. But humans did, said another delegate. Could we learn from them? Sarah Chen looked at Vexrath, asking permission silently. The High Counselor nodded. We would be willing to share the basic theory, Chen said carefully. But the technology is dangerous. Opening portals between realities is incredibly energy-intensive. If done wrong, it could destroy entire solar systems. We would need to work together carefully. You would help us? Someone asked, surprised. Even though we tried to force you to join us? Chen of the Thousand Colors spoke, the artist's voice soft but clear. Because that is what good neighbors do. We are not your enemies. We never were. We just needed you to understand that we had our own path. Now that you do, we can cooperate. The formal vote came near the end of the session. The Galactic Council officially recognized the human multiversal network as an independent civilization. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchange programs were proposed. A joint research initiative on parallel reality theory was suggested, but the most important part came at the very end. Vexrath made an announcement. The Galactic Council hereby acknowledges that membership is no longer mandatory for advanced civilizations. Any species that wishes to remain independent may do so, provided they commit to peaceful relations. Our way is not the only way. This is a new era. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives were angry. Some were excited. Some were terrified. The old order had just died. A new one was being born. After the official session, Vexrath and Sarah Chen met privately in a quiet garden. The crystalline being's body reflected the light from artificial stars overhead. "You have changed everything," Vexrath said. "In 3 months you have overturned 50,000 years of tradition." "We only showed you that alternatives exist," Chen replied. "You chose to accept it." "That took courage." "Or desperation," Vexrath said with what might have been humor. "Tell me honestly, Ambassador, what would you have done if we had attacked?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "We would have defended ourselves decisively, but we would not have pursued you. We do not conquer. We protect. That is the difference between your council and our network. You expand by adding members. We expand by finding new parallel versions of ourselves. We have no desire for your territory or your species." "I believe you," Vexrath said, "though it took me time to understand. You're genuinely not interested in power over others. We have enough challenges managing ourselves across infinite realities." Chen smiled. "Why would we want to manage other species too?" They walked in silence for a while. Then Vexrath asked the question that had been bothering the counselor for weeks. "What happens now?" "To the council. To everything we built. That depends on you," Chen said. "The council has done great things. You have brought peace to thousands of worlds. You have spread knowledge and prosperity. Do not think we dismiss that. But perhaps now you can do even more." "How?" "By adapting," Chen said simply. "You created a system that works through unity and cooperation. We created a system that works through diversity and independence. Perhaps the future needs both. Perhaps some species thrive in the council's structure. Others, like us, need freedom. Why not allow both?" Vexrath's crystalline body flickered with thought. "A galaxy with multiple centers of civilization. Multiple approaches, multiple philosophies." "Exactly," Chen said. "Competition through example, not conflict. Let species choose what works best for them. If the council's way is truly superior, species will choose it freely. If our way works better for some, they can choose that instead. The universe is vast enough for many answers." "This will be difficult," Vexrath warned. "Many council members will resist. They fear change." "All beings fear change," Chen agreed. "But you have survived 50,000 years because you did adapt, even if slowly. You absorbed new species and new ideas. You grew. This is just the next step." Over the following weeks, the reality of the new arrangement began to take shape. The Human Multiversal Network established an embassy on Unity Prime. It was a strange building, seeming to shift slightly as if existing partially in multiple realities at once. Human diplomats met with council members daily, building relationships and understanding.